Help me ducks, it's Simon here. Welcome back to the Hermit's Cave. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope there's not too much of a glare from the sunlight in my glasses. It's a beautiful spring morning and I didn't want to pull the blinds because it almost feels criminal, doesn't it, to shut out the sun, particularly if you're in the UK, because we don't get it very often. But I've come on today because yeah, I saw a video this morning from Art Prone Corner, and it was in response to a tag that I did, gosh, over 3 years ago. It was very early on in 2020, I think about January, February of 2020. And it was Tarot Tubers A to Z. That was the tag that I attached to the video, but the title was Get to Know Your Tarot Tubers. And the reason why I started that tag at the time, bearing in mind this is like over 3 years ago, you know, Tarot Tube at the time, people who put content out on YouTube that's tarot related, was very much about decks. There wasn't as much vlogging or lives as there are now. So we didn't know a lot about those people that we liked to follow. And so I created the tag, not knowing whether it would take off or not, whether people wanted to share anything about themselves. But I was amazed at how many people joined in. And I think of all the tags I've done, that is probably the most popular one. That and probably my soul deck, I would say, or maybe Tarot Shelf. Tarot Shelf was a really popular tag as well. But certainly, Tarot Tubers A to Z was up there. So much so I really struggled to keep on top of watching them all. And but I did, because if somebody takes the time to do your tag and they use the hashtag, I like to go and follow and see what people have to say. But the video I saw this morning from Art Prone Corner was made a relevant point, actually. She said, you know, I want this tag to do a bit of a resurrection, because there's people such as myself who have not long come into the community that might want to take part. And yeah, you know, 3 years, when I think back to all the channels that have probably started in the last 3 years, there's going to be a lot of new content creators that we would like to get to know. However, I didn't want to just put out the same tag again, because that could exclude people who's done it previously. And so what I did this morning, after I got back from my walk, I always walk my friend's dogs with him on a Saturday and a Sunday. I've been to the barber shop. I know I don't have any hair, but I like to have it all shaved, wet shaved, hot towels, the whole works, bit of a pamper. Just done a bit of food shopping, and I got back. I forgot to make a cup of coffee. I'm gonna make a cup of coffee before I start the prompts. I got back and I thought, right, let's look at the A to Z. So the original, and I'll link the original video below. The original Get to Know Your Tarot Tubers was using the alphabet A to Z and a prompt for each letter of the alphabet, giving you a little bit of insight. Some are tarot and divination, or have a spiritual kind of theme. Others are just, you know, finding out about ourselves. Boy, was it hard to come up with another 26 different prompts using the alphabet. But I've been able to do it, and I think it's quite fun. So if you've done Tarot Tubers A to Z previously, because you've been around for a long time, you might want to do the next generation. I'm going to call this Tarot Tubers A to Z Next Generation. I'm not quite sure whether to use the same hashtag so they all lump together, or give it a new hashtag. I'll have a think about that, but you'll know because you'll see it in the title of this video. So if you've done it before, feel free to do it again, because it's all the prompts have changed. Or if you're a new channel, new as in the last 3 years, and you want to join in, then let's get to know a little bit about you as well. So I'm going to make a quick coffee, but because of the wonders of iMovies, you won't even know the difference. and then we will begin. Voila! So I've got my coffee. Let's begin doing the prompts. In the description below will be all the prompts, so you can just cut and paste that and add it into your description for if you do the tag as well. All right, so A is for author. So who is your favourite author? And that can be non-fiction or fiction. I've gone with fiction. So my favourite author is Paulo Coelho. Love his work ever since reading The Alchemist, gosh, 20 years ago now, I think it was. I've got many versions of this book. I've gifted more versions of this book than any other book, even more than The Boy, the Mole, The Fox and the Horse. Yeah, it's a fable. It's jam-packed with nuggets of spiritual information and goodies. I love it, absolutely love it. I even invested and bought a Folio Society version of this book. The second favourite book by him is Veronica Decides to Die. Now, the girl who played Buffy, is it Sarah Michelle Gellar? Is that who played her? I think there was a film made. I've never been able to find it, but then somebody who did watch it said don't bother. But Veronica Decides to Die is my second favourite book. And my third favourite, which is a bit of a chunky one, is The Witch of Portobello. I really enjoyed that book as well. But I've got every book he's ever written and produced. There's so many I could mention that are great. The Devil and Miss Prim is really, really good. 11 Minutes is really good. But Paulo Coelho is my absolute favourite author. B is biggest regret. Now, most of these are quite positive, but, you know, I think if we're really going to kind of open ourselves up and let people who subscribers know more about us, then there has to be a couple in there. So my biggest regret, and that song is playing now, Regrets, I've had a few. I am somebody who tends not to dwell on things that, you know, I would say is a regret, because I'm very much the believer that we are the sum of our lived experiences. So we wouldn't be who we are now or where we are now without making some mistakes. So it's not necessarily a mistake that I've made, but something I didn't pursue or follow up on. And that is going into acting. I had the opportunity when I was 17. I was the lead part in a play, Rocky Horror Show, that we did for work colleagues for Parkour Leisure over 2 years. And yeah, there was somebody there, a name that I was given, who was an agent. And I also looked at applying for the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. And I was kind of living... Things are difficult in the 80s. Even though I love the 80s, things are quite harsh in this country under Thatcher's Britain, particularly if you was a teenager. And I was living in shared accommodation, working at a theme park, and it just felt really insurmountable to be able to achieve that at the time. So if I had my time again, I think I would be more brave and just try and work it out somehow and have less doubts. And that's my only regret. However, that said, I'm happy where I am right now. Right now in my life, I'm quite content. I love the job I've got. You know, I love my situation, family, friends, etc. So can't have too many regrets. C is for car. What do you listen to the most when you're in your car? Is it Audible? Is it music? Is it the radio? I have my own playlist, my own drive time playlist. So I subscribe to Amazon Music. I think it's something like $11.99 a month, and you have unlimited, but you can drop songs and create your own playlist. And every time I hear a song that I think, oh, I love that song, I go on and I drop it into a playlist called Favorites. And there's over 100 songs in there, well over 100 songs in there now. Mostly it's 80s music, because I'm a child of the 80s. You know, Erasure, Pet Shop Boys, Duran Duran, not just shouting out all the Brit groups, because Madonna, I love Madonna, Culture Club, Bronski Beat, all that kind of music is Human League. That's what I listen to in my car. As soon as I go in, I put my phone, connect it up, and then go to my playlist, hit favorites, random play, and off I go. D is for divination tool, other than tarot, in brackets. So divination tool other than brackets. And this was a question that came up last night when I was interviewing Ramon, because I tend to swap mine around, but if I'm not using tarot, I think my favourite divination tool is the Ogham. I really love Ogham. This is a cool bag that I got from Avebury. So Ogham staves, they're rooted in Celtic tradition, and these are just a few. And the company I bought these from forage for them. So you order them, but it takes about a month to produce them, because they go and forage and get the branches and start working on them. So they're individually made for you, but they're taken from the corresponding tree. So these are tree Ogham, and they just are fab. I've got a kind of like a printout with all the kind of correspondences and, you know, what they mean. This is the Ogham alphabet, but it's such a tactile, bit like runes, but you know, there's more of a connection to this land with Ogham. Some are gnarly and twisty, but they just sound wonderful, and they've got a gorgeous smell as well. So it's a real sort of tactile experience. I use a big bag like this, so I can either just put my hand in and pull out an Ogham stave if I want a quick message, or sometimes I cast with them, so you can take them out. I'll use something like a fire and ice crystal as the pointer, and then I cast them and I have a look at what's around the crystal. I use a bigger space than what I'm using at the moment. So yeah, and in the Hermit's Cave Facebook group, before we started doing a tarot card of the week, I did a whole series on Ogham, and we looked at a different Ogham stave every week, and that was quite fun and interesting. So yeah, favourite divination tool outside of tarot is Ogham. E is for eat. So what would you eat as your last meal? So I guess it's kind of like your favourite dish really, but you know, if it was your last supper, what would you eat as your last meal? And this is a hard one for me because I am a foodie and I do love all different types of food. But if it was my last ever meal, then I think it would have to be fish and chips. Just because it's got connections as well, because if you're of a certain age, and I hear it's less popular now, but I think that's probably more in the south, certainly up north, fish and chip shops are a staple, you know, Friday, chippy tea. And it used to feel like a real treat. You'd go to school all week, your parents would be at work all week, and then Friday comes and it's a chippy tea. So yeah, I think if it's going to be my last meal, it will be because of nostalgia as well as enjoyment factor. to have some nice fish and chips, and if I could really spoil myself, some mushy peas and some curry sauce on the chips. That would be perfect. F is for fears. Do you have any? What are they? And for this, I'm going to break it into two, of irrational fears and rational fears, I think. An irrational fear for me is moths. I've mentioned it before. I'm not too bad. Even looking at a picture of a moth used to make my palms sweat, and I used to get that prickly feeling all down my spine and everything like that. I'm not so bad looking at pictures of moths. I've kind of done some work on that. However, one of the reasons why I like living where I live is because I've never, in the 17 years of living in this apartment, had a moth, because they're not going to get that high to me. And even if they are, there's lots of other different windows they can get in before they get to mine. So in the summer, I can have the lights on and the windows open, which I couldn't in previous places that I've lived, particularly when I lived on a farm, because they were everywhere. And if one got in the house, no word of an exaggeration, I would freeze, literally freeze, paralyzed with fear. Don't know where it comes from. You know, I don't have the same reaction to spiders or bees or anything like that. But if a moth comes in, I think it's that hitting the light bulb sound and the flutteriness. And, you know, I've got experiences of when I was a kid where I was poorly once and I woke up and one was trying to get in my mouth. And also, one night I stayed in the bath all night in freezing water because a moth got in when I was a teenager, and it was flying around the light fixture above me, and I just paralysed with fear. So because it was middle of summer, so otherwise hypothermia. So that's an irrational fear, because I know they can't hurt me, you know, I just don't understand why it's there, but I don't understand phobias, full stop. A rational fear that I have is just the way the world seems to be going at the moment, in terms of some really extreme views. And I really think we're taking a step backwards with a lot of progress that we've made over the last 30 or 40 years. It's almost like some, and not everybody, but some people have this underbelly, this nasty side, and the moment they feel that they can have a voice because they're afforded that, it plays out. And I'm just talking of things like in this country when Brexit happened, we saw that cases of racism just soared in this country, because that's not what Brexit was about, but that's how it was perceived. We've seen things in the US, you know, and the fact that people feel that they are suddenly justified to show their ugly side. And it's a fear of mine that the things that people have worked and fought for progress, for acceptance, for equality, could be reversed, and we could find that we go backwards. So that's a fear I have. G is for game. So what's your favourite game? What game do you like to play? And that could be anything you want. It could be a board game, or it could be a party game that you play. And I really thought about this one. If it's a board game, I really like Cluedo. I'm not huge on Monopoly. I don't mind it. I will play it. But Cluedo, I just find really enjoyable. And then as for kind of like party games, I like Mafia, if anybody's ever played Mafia, where you've got two Mafias in a group, depending on the size, and the rest are citizens, and only the Mafia, because they've been tapped, know that they're the Mafia, and they've got to kill people before they're exposed for being the Mafia. And it was popularised, and I know it's been in the States as well, if you're in the States, with a program that went on TV last year called Traitors, and it was the same concept. You know, two, oh well, it was more than two. Was it? No, it started off as two. Were tapped on the shoulder, they were the traitors, and they had to eradicate everybody else before they was exposed to being the traitors. So it was the same sort of concept. H is for holiday. Now I've kept H as holiday different to vacation, and you'll see why. But holiday as in, you know, holidays and festivals. What's your favourite? So mine is Christmas. I was thinking, is it Christmas or is it Samhain? But again, I've got a lot of... Christmas has changed for me in the last, certainly the last Christmas. But that aside, I've got a lot of happy Christmas memories. And I still like the Christmas time of the year, you know, in the bleak midwinter, when everything is dark and cold, and then the lights of Christmas come on. And everybody seems to be a little bit nicer to people. Maybe it is that sort of installation of peace on earth and goodwill to all men. But I like the fact that you can get together with your loved ones. You can show appreciation by you gifting them something, having some nice food and drinks, and just a nice time for togetherness, you know. So that's my favourite holiday, is Christmas. I is for interest. So an interest somebody might not know about you. And we've all got interests. I know a lot of us talk about tarot and divination, but I think it would be too easy to say that. So something that we might not know. Now, I was going to say fountain pens, because I love inks and fountain pens, but I have put some videos up on my channel about that. So then, you know, is it something that you don't know? I don't know. But fountain pens is certainly an interest in mine. Another interest that I have is films. I love movies. I absolutely love them. I've got around 500 DVDs. I don't have it anymore, but I used to have unlimited. I cancelled it at lockdown. Why pay for something you can't have? And I've never really got it back again, or, you know, set it back up. But I used to have an unlimited card where on a Sunday morning I'd go across and catch a movie, and I just love movies. I'm a real film buff. J is for joy. Something that brings you joy. And for me, it's time with friends brings me joy, and with dogs. I don't have a dog. I can't have a dog here. And I should really go with one, shouldn't I? Something that brings you joy. But it's time spent with people that I care about. Let's just put it that way. You know, when you really feel that that time spent with a friend it's so precious, it's so valuable, particularly when you can be yourself and just hang out and have a giggle and a chat and you know, just share some time together. K is what would you sing on a karaoke night? And I have done karaoke. I quite enjoy doing karaoke. And I always used to sing Tainted Love. I used to say, oh, you know, don't get me on a karaoke because I'll do my Tainted Love number. And then where I used to work, I had my work wife, Rachel, and we always used to do Islands in the Stream, Dolly and Kenny. And we always used to do that every time there's a karaoke, it's a staff Christmas party or something. We used to do Islands in the Stream. But recently, because we take some of our young people that we support to a disco and there's a karaoke there, I've been doing Bohemian Rhapsody. Just to expand my range, darlings. Because you have to do lots of different range singing karaoke. But yeah, it's always better with a drink, and you can't have a drink when you're supporting people. But L is what makes you laugh the most. And for me, what makes me laugh the most, it's going to sound terrible, but it's things that you shouldn't really laugh at. I find, and my sister is the same, and we used to get into so much trouble when we was kids, like if we went to my grandparents' house or something like that. Something is said that's funny but not meant to be funny, and I used to look at my sister and she would clock it, and then the shoulders would start to go, and then you're trying to not laugh, and it's just the funniest thing, and then you just have that release because you can't hold it in anymore, and everybody's like, what are you laughing at? And you can't tell them because it wasn't really funny. I also quite like irreverent humour from comedians when they talk about something that's a little bit close to the bone, a little bit edgy, and you think, oh, I really shouldn't laugh at that, but I find that I do. Observational comedy as well is my best, and when I was at Becca's over the last few days, we watched quite a lot of Peter Kay, and he is the master of observational comedy. He will relay a story and you can relate to that story, but he does it in such a funny way that you just think, yeah, that's me, or yeah, that's you, and I find that hilarious as well. M is for movie. One that you could watch over and over again and never get tired of watching it. So I've got a load of movies that I love. My all-time favourite film is Shawshank Redemption, followed by Stand By Me, followed by The Green Mile. They're all Stephen King films. Have I made that connection before? However, they're my favourite, my top three. I also love The Colour Purple. Breaks my heart, but beautiful film. But I think the one that I could watch over and over again and never get tired is the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I have seen that must be 150 times in my lifetime to date, easily. I know it word for word. I do the audience participation. I sing along to all the songs. It's a cult classic. It never grows old, even though there was that travesty of a remake a few years back. But the original Richard O'Brien's Rocky Horror Picture with Tim Curry playing Frankenfurter, yeah, that's the film I could watch over and over again and never get bored. N is for nature. So where in nature do you feel most connected? So for me, it's definitely by the sea. I do like the countryside. I do like woodland areas. I like to sit on a high point and look out over an expanse. However, the ultimate place for me is to be by the sea. There's something about the sea where I feel like my batteries are being recharged. The energy of the sea is immense, and I could just spend hours looking out to sea. It's just, and I feel really connected, and it's strange because I can't put my finger necessarily on why, but I love the sound of the waves. I love to look out across the sea. I love the energy that it gives, and I love that sort of feeling of, being recharged, and there's that deep spiritual connection. So yeah, for me, it's being by the sea. That's my nature response. O is for optimistic. So what are your hopes for the future? And this for me kind of links to the one earlier about my fears, because my hopes for the future is for true equality. I've always been an advocate for marginalised people and an ally. I still do to a degree, but not so much in this job, but when I was a people development manager, my specialist training that I did was equality, diversity, and inclusion. And I think you have to be passionate about it to be able to deliver that, because you've got to really change hearts and minds. But my hope for the future is that we just don't see differences. and we don't use labels. I do feel that labels, perhaps still to a degree, have a place, but they have had a place, because unless you can label something and say, this is how I identify, we don't get on that journey towards true equality. But my hopes for the future is that we don't need labels, because we are seen as the individuals that we are. And I want true equality. I don't want anybody to be treated differently because of a difference. You know, it's one thing I can never wrap my brain around, as to why people are treated less fairly, less favourably, because they're different. You know, we're all different. Why do we not see that we're all unique? But anyway, that's my hope for the future. My hope for the future is that nobody is treated unfairly, that everybody has the same rights, that everybody can live their life and be their true, authentic self without fear. That's my hope. P is for Pip Deck. Your favourite Pip Deck. Now, in the first Tarot Tubers A to Z, I did Marseille for M, and as you've seen, it was about movie this time. And when I did it last time, people were like, well, I don't have a Marseille deck, but I've got a Pip Deck. So P is for Pip Deck. Now, I've got some amazing, beautiful Pip Decks, both Marseille and non-Marseille. But my favourite is the one that was made for me, and that's the Hermit's Hybrid Tarot by Conrad Stein. This deck is, you know, it was to my specifications, and I said to Conrad, would you consider making the deck that I've always wanted to see, which is the hybrid between RWS, which, you know me, I love, and playing cards. And he came up with this, and it's beautifully, beautifully gilded. It's got the Pam's deck backs, but with the playing card pips incorporated into the design. And you'll see that it's got like an aged kind of effect. It uses Pix's artwork, but the pips of the playing cards are really nice. And he used a vintage kind of design. And just look at them for the clubs. The spades, and again, it's got, you know, Pix's artwork for the majors. So you could take all them out. You can use this as a playing card deck. You can use it for cartomancy, which is what I wanted it for. I love the shape of those hearts. Really, really gorgeous. And then let me show you an ace. So the aces he did like this, which incorporate the playing card, ace of spades here, and then the association. So ace of spades, or spades I should say, is the sword suit. And I just think it's a gorgeous, gorgeous deck. And then we've got the courts like this. So this is my favourite Pip deck, because, you know, it was everything that I wanted it to be. And I'll always be grateful to Conrad for creating that deck. And he didn't make it just for me. I believe it's still on NPC. So if you go to NPC and go to CS Tarot, you have to put the dot after the C and the S, and then look at the Conrad store. You'll probably find it in there. So yeah, let's have a sup of coffee. Okay. Q is for quality time. What do you consider to be your quality time when you just think that was real good time well spent, you know? And when you say to someone, let's spend some quality time. So quality time for me, similar to what I said earlier about being with friends and loved ones, but creating a memory. And I thought about this earlier because I thought, well, do you know what? You know, today it's a Sunday. I've had 2 weeks off. I'm back at work tomorrow. I don't want to do anything today. That's, you know, I did the walk this morning with the dogs and been to the barbers, done some shopping. But now I'm back. I want to potter. I want to play with my cards. I want to watch a film this afternoon. That's quality time as well. But it doesn't necessarily create a memory. So for me, a quality time is just being with people that I love, doing something that I love, and creating that wonderful memory. That's true quality time for me. R is for reincarnation. Now, you don't have to believe in reincarnation to play along with this. It's just for fun. But if you could be reborn in any time period, when would that be and why? So for me, I always used to say, I feel I was born a generation too late. So I'm Generation X, which is 1960 to 1980. But if I could be reborn in any time period, I don't want to go too far back when life was really harsh, and going to war and all that sort of thing. As a pacifist, I'd hate to think I'd have to do that, or conscientiously object and they didn't get a good time. But I'd like to go back to the generation just before mine, to the baby boomer generation, which is 1950 onward, well, late 1940s, 1950s, because I want to be a teenager. I would love to be a teenager in the 60s, particularly late 60s into early 70s, when it was the hippie movement, the flower power. I'd love to have gone to Woodstock. I would just love to have been around at that time, you know, in a little camper, traveling around, part of a hippie commune, free love, and yeah, peace. And something about it, every time I see it, I just think, I'd love to have been a teenager during that time period. Okay, S, how are we doing for time? Okay, need to speed this up a bit. S is sacred. So what's sacred to you? It can be anything that's sacred to you, obviously. But what's sacred to me is my sanctuary. It's the Hermit's Cave. I feel safe here. I've got all my spiritual tools around me. I quite like living alone and, you know, locking that door, putting on some comfy clothes and just chilling out. I've got my altar. I've also got an altar for meditation. And it's a sacred place for me. I don't go to I visit churches and temples, and every time I go somewhere and there's a religious building, whether it's a cathedral or a temple, or I'll always go and check it out because I like the energy of them. But I don't attend regularly any sort of temples or churches or anything like that, because I have everything I need right here in my home. This is my sanctuary. It's where I feel safe and protected. And it's also, you know, a spiritual place where I dwell. So yeah, sacred for me is here. T has to be tarot. Now, it was tarot last time, but last time it was tarot first and last. So I asked people to share what their first tarot deck was and their last tarot deck and how their taste had changed. Now it's just tarot, your current favourite deck. My current favourite deck is this beauty. Oh, I love this deck so much. This is Earth Magic. I nearly said Cameron Diaz. Daniel Martin Diaz. not Cameron Diaz. I love it. It's got this kind of sepia tone to it. The artwork is absolutely beautiful. I've had some amazing readings with this deck. I mean, just look at it. These are the backs. It's very similar if people have Pagan Otherworlds. It's the same cardstock. I think it's probably produced by the same company, although it doesn't say that on the box. But it's exactly the same. It's that soft linen, beautiful to hold and to shuffle. But it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous deck. And it's my current favourite. It's out on my desk and I'm using it every single day. And it just blows my mind. It really does. And every time I lay some cards down, even if the cards have appeared before, I see something new and different in the images. You know, there's so many layers to it. Just gorgeous. So Earth Magic is my current favourite tarot deck. U is for Unforgettable Moment. Gosh, there's so many. I've got so many unforgettable moments in my life, but I think I'm going to go with my first ever concert, which was Queen. Live at Wembley. It was the year after Live Aid. Live Aid was the first time Wembley Stadium was filled for a concert. And I can remember watching Live Aid. I was at my dad's house. I'd gone up on the Saturday to see my dad and we had Live Aid on. And I can remember watching it thinking, oh, yeah, this is quite boring. And then Queen came on stage, and if you've seen Bohemian Rhapsody, the film, it covers this, and you could just see that, you know, how that it turned at that point. Freddie Mercury is the ultimate showman. And so they decided to see if they could fill Wembley as a solo act the following year, which was 1986. And they didn't just fill it once, they filled it 2 nights and then went on to do Nebworth as well. And my friend's mum, thank goodness, said, because I used to go around to my friend's house and another friend, there were 3 of us, and she says, do you boys want to go and see Queen at Wembley? And I was like, I've never been to a concert, let alone go to London. And I asked my mum and she said, no, you can't go. I'm not having you go into that London. You know, you might get stabbed, you might get this. And I begged my friend's mum to go and have a word with my mum. And she said, I guarantee I'll look after them. Nothing will happen. And she let me go. And I couldn't have been prepared for that moment. I'm getting goosebumps even now. Gosh, what, 37 years later, it was electric. It was a moment in my life sealed in here that I will never forget, and so grateful to have been there, because only 6 years later he passed away, or 5 years later he passed away. And it was just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I didn't want it to end. Yeah, just an incredible experience that I'll treasure forever. So that's my unforgettable moment. V is for Vocation. So as I said, holiday is kind of like, you know, seasons and celebrations and that sort of thing. Vocation, your favourite destination. For me, it's going to be Glastonbury. Now, I've been to America a few times and I want to go to New York next year. But I never now want a year to go past without visiting Glastonbury. And it's only a 4-hour drive. Technically it's 3, but it takes about 4 because of traffic and things. And so I try and book each year, and I've booked again for the beginning of November. And Sandra's joining me. But just have a few days in Glastonbury and soak up that energy and that atmosphere. Again, it's very similar to what I said about being by the sea. I feel like it's a bit of a pilgrimage, particularly climbing the Tor, which I want to do every time I go. It's where I'm having my ashes scattered when I've slipped off this mortal coil. It's all sorted, all arranged, because I want that to be my final resting place. But Glastonbury itself, you know, you can just be whatever you want to be, and there is no judgment. It's such a, I don't know, it's just like going to a place where everybody is accepted, nothing is weird. There's even a book and I believe a YouTube page called Normal for Glastonbury, because nothing is really normal in Glastonbury. What is normal anyway? But yeah, it's just, it's my spiritual home. I love it. I love going, and I always want to go at least once a year. So yeah, that's my vocation, my favorite destination. Vacation, not vocation, vacation. W is well-being. So what do you do to keep it in check? What do you do to maintain your overall well-being? For me, it is disconnect. To disconnect from social media, from the news, and just be present. That helps my overall well-being. I am somebody who is a natural born worrier. I worry about things that might never happen. I often think back to things and replay what I would do differently. And what we have to remember is, you know, the future hasn't happened, and it's probably not going to play out the way you think it is. The past is just a memory trace. That's all it is. All we ever have is the present moment. And it's in that present moment we can, you know, you can always start again in the present moment. You can always redetermine. And for me, I find that, and whether it's being, you know, people saying empaths, whether it's I am empathic, and I see things on the news and it sits here, it rents space here. And I worry about, you know, Russia, the war in Ukraine, China. I worry about, you know, the cost of living crisis. I worry. And to maintain my well-being, I have to disconnect. So I come off social media. I don't put the news on. If I feel like I'm in that state of anxiety, then I center myself, I get into the present moment, and I meditate, you know, and I keep my mind clear and calm. And again, I've got this space around me where I feel safe and protected. I've never ever felt unsafe living here. It's like Fort Knox trying to get in here. So even if somebody got into the corridor trying to get through those doors, it's nigh on impossible. And I've got panic alarms and all that kind of stuff. I feel really safe. And that's quite something for city centre living. But anyway, yeah. So for my overall well-being is to disconnect, okay, and then connect. X is a tough one. So X, just for, well, not fun, painful, but X is for X-ray. Have you ever had one? Have you ever broken a bone? I haven't broken a bone, but I have fractured my arm, which was blooming painful. I'm not proud, but I had a little bit too much to drink in my 20s, and I went to a nightclub and I was having a great time, and we was upstairs, and I decided to go down to the lower level, and the lights on every step just did this, and I went down. And I got up and thought, oh, I've hurt my arm. Didn't think anything more about it. Was dancing away, and then I thought, I've really hurt my arm. And I had an x-ray and I'd fractured it. And that is really debilitating. Try putting toothpaste and things on a toothbrush with just one hand. It was impossible. But as for an x-ray, I had one this week. Well, last week now, because Sunday's the first day of the new week, isn't it? But just on Wednesday, I had an x-ray because I've had some dental work done, and they took an x-ray of my jaw. All okay. They have to keep checking because I do have an overbite. So they always do x-rays every so often. So I had an x-ray this week. Why is yourself, okay? When can you feel totally comfortable, or when do you feel totally comfortable when you're in your own skin? So why is you, yourself, when do you feel comfortable being who you are? And I guess it's a bit of a theme for this one. For me, it's when I can be amongst people who don't judge me. You know, I'm very blessed to have a good amount of friends in my life where I feel I can be myself 100% without fear of any judgment. I can talk about daft things. I can talk about thoughts and fears. I can talk about fantasies, and I don't mean that in a weird way, but do you know what I mean? I can just talk to people and feel totally accepted. And that's friends that I've had for 30 odd years, and also some new friends as well. But when I feel totally comfortable in my own skin is when I can be with people who don't judge me. And I try and be that for people as well. You know, I'm not a judgmental person. It's something I always try and strive to ensure. The last one, Z. Z is for zodiac. So what star sign are you, and do you feel a connection with that star sign? So I'm a Libra, and yes, I do. I'm not into astrology. I've tried, I've dabbled, I've put my toes in the water, and I always feel like I'm getting it, and then somebody mentions something else. So I get the 12 houses kind of around the globe and where planets and stars are within those 12 houses. I get all that, but then people start mentioning decans, and I'm like, already I'm confused. But in its basic sense, horoscopes, star signs, I don't know how much attention I pay to horoscopes when they appear, like, this week you're going to go on a long journey, because I think, wow, 1/12 of the population going on a long journey. Roads are going to get congested. Somebody better let British Rail know. But joking aside, the star sign, when I read about the temperament and attributes for Librans, I really do feel out of all of the 12 zodiac that I'm a true Libran. I try and be fair in everything I do. I do listen, and I try and weigh up both sides. I'm about balance, and yeah, I really feel connected to Libra. It's something that when I've looked at it, I thought, well, maybe there is some truth to this then, because that's me to a T whenever I read about the characteristics of Librans. There you have it. That's A to Z done. So this is TarotTuber's A to Z Next Generation. Do play along. Use the hashtag that I use in the description if you do play along, and I'll be sure to check it out. I've been on for nearly an hour. Gosh, I didn't want it to be that long, but I can ramble. Yeah, I really can. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy. I can't wait to hear more about you guys. Yeah, until next time, go in peace. Namaste and blessed be.